Shalom, Shalom Israel. I am the brother Yawana from the Great Millstone, Arizona camp, coming back at y'all with Lord's will, another edifying lesson. First and foremost, as always, before I start, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and infinite glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rachach. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, our teachers. Shalom to you brothers pushing and teaching this truth across the four winds of this earth. And as always, peace, blessings, and many salutations be to you sincere Akiyama Akwath, you brothers, along with you few sisters who are giving all diligence in these last days. All right, through the mercy and grace of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, through his only beloved begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, coming back with another update and prophecy type lesson. This is going to be more on the topic of World War III. Okay, as you see from the beginning of, this video that I played, I have a clip where Donald Trump is pretty much, speaking about, in a response to the American people that, he pretty much orchestrated, an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. Okay, and, ultimately, what did that breed? Okay, which, we all saw it coming, man. Of course, Donald Trump is saying, oh, now it's time for peace after they done struck their, on their homeland. Now he wants to call for peace, but we already know once they say peace and safety, that sudden destruction will come. Okay, so this isn't a time for peace and safety, but here it is, Donald Trump saying that, now it's time for peace after he, destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities. And Iran, retaliated. Okay, because first it was this right here, right? That was the first form of retaliation that we've seen, which them closing the Strait of Hurmoz, which we're going to get into, that is going to have a negative domino effect of problems, globally and for the U.S. Okay, so this is off the New York Post. It says Iran orders closure of Strait of Hormuz, putting 1/5 of world's oil supply at risk. It says Iran's parliament has voted to close the Strait of Hormuz, the vital shipping channel through which around 20% of the world's daily oil flows. The move, which could block 1 billion in oil shipments per day, is likely to send oil prices soaring. Brent crude oil, the international standard, jumped 3.9 to $80 a barrel on Sunday, while U.S. crude rose 4.3% to $77 a barrel. All right, so let me see, there's a little bit more. It says the conflict between Israel and Iran has sent oil prices yo-yoing, if I'm saying that right, over the past week, which in turn has caused seesaw moves for the U.S. stock market because of the rising and ebbing fears that war could disrupt the global flow of crude. Iran is a major producer of oil and also sits on the narrow Strait of Hormuz, through which much of the world's crude oil passes. So the whole world is going to be affected, okay, by Iran's parliament, ultimately making this decree. And really, it's all through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. See, as the scripture says, Sirach 18, whom all things obey his will. Okay, all things obey the will of the Lord. Okay, the animals, the changing of the seasons, and the minds of men. It says, through which much of the world's crude oil passes, it will go into effect pending a final decision by Iran's Supreme Council. The Supreme Council's decision must be made by tonight, according to Iran's state-run Press TV. Iran's major escalation in response to U.S. strikes on its nuclear facilities will be done whenever necessary, Emil Qasari, commander in the Revolutionary Guards, said Sunday. It says the strait connecting the Gulf of Oman with the Persian Gulf is one of the world's most critical choke points, just 20 miles wide at its narrowest point. Shipping lanes in the strait, the area that is deep enough for ships to pass, are even narrower at less than 2 miles wide in each direction, making them much more vulnerable to attacks and threats of closure. The channel is shallow, making it a particular target for underwater mining, while the narrowness of the strait makes passing vessels vulnerable to attack from shore-based missiles or interception by patrol boats or helicopters. Iran would most likely pursue a multi-layered asymmetric strategy rather than attempting an outright naval blockade, Greg Roman, executive director of the Middle East Forum, told the Post. Okay, so, I also have not only this article, but I went to ChatGPT And I asked, what would happen, okay, if what would happen to Americans if Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz. I'm going to ask it again. Happens to Americans if Iran... Bear with me. I have to ask it again. There we go. So I asked ChatGPT, which is AI, right, a question: what happens to Americans if Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz? Which again, Iran's parliament, as we just read, okay, is talking about closing it, which again is going to have a global effect. It's going to have an effect globally, and it's also going to have a major effect here in America. It says if Iran were to close the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway through which roughly 20 to 30% of the world's oil exports pass, the effects on Americans and the global economy could be significant and felt in multiple ways. Excuse me, here's a breakdown. It says immediate impact: global oil prices skyrocket. The strait is a key choke point. About 17 million barrels of oil per day, as of recent estimates, pass through it. If closed or blocked, global oil supply would instantly tighten. Oil prices could surge dramatically. Historically, modules suggest a 20 to 50% price jump or more depending on duration and severity. For Americans, gasoline prices at the pump could rise significantly, possibly $1 to $2 per gallon or more in a short term. So gas is definitely going to go up. And you got to imagine, man, we're living in a time in which, the cost of living is high. Okay, people are barely getting by. So now, with these tariffs, and now with Iran, ultimately, considering closing the Strait of Hormuz, this is going to cause things in America, as far as the price, to continue to shoot up even more, man. Causing, a more tighter squeeze, okay, on the lives of you people that live here, man, and even us. But see, we have, hope that Yahweh Shemashai, even through these hard times, is going to make a way, as he does every day for us now. It says jet fuel, diesel, and heating oil would also spike. Transportation, shipping, and food prices could follow suit. So, it's going to be a problem for, companies, man, truckers, companies, use this oil too, man. Okay. So this is going to affect everybody, right? Transportation, shipping, and food prices could follow suit. It says supply chain disruptions. Many U.S. goods rely on global supply chains with components of raw materials transported via the Gulf. Any extended disruption could cause delays in deliveries of industrial goods, electronics, or chemicals, particularly from Asia and the Middle East. So this is even going to put a delay on certain key goods, electronics, chemicals that are delivered to America, man. And we already know that a lot of those at the ports, a lot of those shipping containers that ultimately arrive were coming up empty, as some men were reporting on, man. Okay, so this is just another way, as the Lord said, that he would break the staff of bread. All right, when you go into the NLT, it said the Lord will break break down the food supply, roughly paraphrasing, man. And that's what the Lord is doing right now. Okay, slowly but surely. Okay, the Lord is setting everything up perfectly to bring forth a time of great tribulation that has never before been seen, which is prophesied in the Holy Scriptures, man. Okay, let me see. It says inflation pressures. Already inflated prices post-pandemic and post-Ukraine war would rise further. The Federal Reserve may be pressured to raise interest rates again to cool inflation, slowing economic growth and increasing risk of recession. Geopolitical and military consequences. The U.S. Fifth Fleet is stationed in Bahrain, and the U.S. would likely respond militarily or diplomatically to ensure freedom of navigation. Conflict escalation with Iran could draw the U.S. into a broader Middle East crisis, raising defense spending and risking American lives. And don't forget, okay, that, there is what you call sleeper cells here in America, man. All right, let's get that definition of a sleeper cell, because some people don't really know what a sleeper cell is. And a lot of these individuals came over here for the past two years primarily, right, via these open borders that the Biden administration allowed to be open. See, that was all by design, man. You had, they act like, all the millions of people that have migrated over here through open borders the past few years. They act like it's only Jake. And don't get me wrong, you got a lot of Jake that came over here. A lot of Northern tribe. All right, but at the same time, you had all different types of nations. You had Ammon, Japanese, Moab, Chinese men, All right, and these were groups of men coming over here in hordes. It wasn't just no families. Now, you might have families scattered here and throughout the crowds, but it was men that were fit. They looked like they were athletic, and they were, from what we believe, a lot of them to be sleeper cells, man. There was even certain groups that, were on camera caught sneaking over here in all black. So a sleeper cell is what? A sleeper cell is a clandestine group of individuals who operate in secret, typically for espionage or terrorist activities, and are activated only when needed for a specific mission. Okay, so these individuals, are undercover, waiting for, their activation, waiting for their signal. It says they live ordinary lives, blending into their surroundings until they are called upon to carry out an operation. See that? They live ordinary lives. They work at the same store. Everybody goes to Walmart. They deliver your packages to Amazon. You can't even tell, man. It just looks like a normal individual. You might even be cool with him at the job, but it could be a sleeper cell, man. And at a certain point, the Lord's going to put the spirit in these devils to give that activation signal to a lot of these men that are over here. Okay? Because, again, there's men that are over here from Russia and Iran. And all it takes, is for them to get activated. Now, America's getting hit from the inside out. Okay, it's the perfect, it was, the whole open border, all that was what you call a Trojan horse tactic. Okay, it was an event that happened. Okay, but there was a main event, hidden within it. All right, and it was done in, in secret. It was done with deceit, But nevertheless, it was all controlled by Yahweh Shem Shai, as all things are. Okay, but I just wanted to get that because, that a lot of these men that are from Iran, China, Russia, America's enemies are over here, man. Spread it throughout the states, ready to cause a ruckus when the time of their need is. Okay, so let's go back to this. All right, I think there's only a couple more key points on the effects that are going to take place if the Iran parliament decides to go ahead and close the Strait of Hurmoz. Okay, it says international response and realignment. Global powers like China, Europe, India would also be impacted and might pressure Iran diplomatically. Some nations might seek alternative routes for oil through pipelines that bypass the strait through capacity is limited. And that's pretty much the point, man. I really want to touch on those first few, key points because this is going to have, a major effect. All right, and as time goes on, more things are going to continue to happen. All right, and life is going to become harder. This is 2nd Ezra, chapter 16 and verse 21. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. You see that people think is they living good now because they can, it may be the grocery store may be expensive and everybody, but really, compared to the times that we're getting ready to come into, right, where prices, a loaf of bread could be $20. Gas could, gallon of gas could be, $10 to $12, man. All right, people think that they're in a good case now, but all the meanwhile, they thought that, man, evils were continuing to grow as they are still. Okay, and so is the Lord's judgment, right? So is a shortage of food, right? And great confusion is about to be in the minds of these people, man. They're about to be in a state of perplexity. They're not gonna know what the hell to do, right? This is the definition of the word confused. On the Google definition, it says of a person unable to think clearly, bewildered. And that's what I've noticed about a lot of people. Just today, man. I was just picking people's brain at the job, not talking about the truth. Just this whole Iran situation has got pretty much a lot of people, on the edge of their seats because now people are starting to pay attention. To what the prophets are saying, in a sense. People are starting to look and be like, damn, things are really happening. But that's the time when the effect of every vision, as is written of in Ezekiel, the 12th chapter. You see, but what I noticed today is, man, just asking, people, some of my coworkers, what they think about this whole Iran situation and what could happen, just to see what they say. Because, people aren't paying attention to none of the things that are happening in the world. Okay, so I'd be curious sometimes. I'll ask, pose a question, and people didn't want to hear it. People didn't want to think about it. One girl, she even told me, she was like, I don't know what you were talking about because I overheard it. She's like, but I don't want to know anything that's going on in the world, politics. She's like, I just want to keep my peace. Okay, but what do the scriptures say, man? I know I'm quoting a lot of Salakia. Let me actually go here to the book of Ezekiel. And we're going to start up in this. This is Ezekiel chapter 7 and verse 4. It says, and mine eye shall not spare thee, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense thy ways upon thee, and thine abominations shall be in the midst of thee, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. And that's a lot of the reason why the Lord is going to bring the famine, right? Bring the shortage of food, the shortage of water. Okay, that's why the Lord is going to ultimately hike prices up to a point where people aren't going to afford to live, and people are going to lose it, man. The Lord is orchestrating all of this. Why? Because these people are living wickedly. Okay, this is Sirach chapter 39, and bear with me. In verse 29, it says, fire and hail and famine and death, all these were created for vengeance. Teeth of wild beasts and scorpions, serpents, and the sword, punishing the wicked to destruction. So that's what these things are for, these different judgments, man. Fire, hail, and famine, teeth of wild beasts, okay, and the sword. These things are for the wicked, and that's why the Lord is setting things up like this, man. That's why the Lord is setting up, a great collapse to ultimately befall America, and it's going to come very soon, all right? And, hey, it's all part of biblical prophecy. It says, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, and evil and only evil, behold, is come. An end is come, the end is come. It watches for thee, behold, it is come. And I want to read this in NLT on the right-hand side. It says, the end has come, it has finally arrived. Oh, somebody start by verse 5. Ezekiel 7 and 5 in the NLT on the right-hand side. It says, this is what the sovereign Lord says, disaster after disaster is coming your way. That's right, man. One bad thing after another. Okay, because right now we're in a time of the birth pains, right? As Yahweh Shai made mention, the end has come, it has finally arrived. Your final doom is waiting. O people of Israel, the day of your destruction is dawning. The time has come, the day of trouble is near, and that's what we're warning you, Israelites, man. As well as our own self, the time of Daniel 12 and 1 is not far as most people may think, as they say, as our people said in the time of Ezekiel as well, when you read the 12th chapter, right? The vision that he seeth is for many days to come, right? He prophesies of things that don't come to pass. That people saying that's going to come to an end too, man. Because now we're coming into the time where the prophets have been out here, starting with our beloved elder apostles on down, right? The prophets have been out here, so now the people have been warned. They don't have no excuse. So now that these people are heard, the Lord's going to bring it back in their mind when all hell breaks loose, that those men that they thought were so strange and they looked down upon and they thought were wasting their time, those are the men they're going to be looking for. We're going to be in their mind in that day because we're the only one that have the answers. But see, our people aren't taking heed. Shouts of anguish will be heard in the mountains, not shouts of joy. You're coming into a time, as Yahweh Shai said, the beginning of sorrow, man. It's going to be people are going to be sorrowing in the days ahead. People are going to be crying their eyes out, man, and being afraid, okay? Because as it says, the city shall be troubled, right? And men shall be afraid, okay? You see chaos all throughout the cities, bodies of people everywhere from the amount of death. A lot of death is coming. Right, and that's pursuing to Jeremiah. All right, let's get that real quick. All right, this is a great time of terror that's coming, man. And the fact that we're seeing, things happen the way they are, it's showing us, man. Because World War III, can't come until, the chip. So what does that mean? That we're seeing, World War III and ramp up, that the micro C-hip is right around the corner. But I'm going to read this and go back to that Ezekiel. It's like Jeremiah chapter 25 and 33. It says, and the slain of the Lord shall be at that day from one end of the earth, even unto the other end of the earth. They shall not be lamented, neither gathered nor buried. They shall be dung upon the ground. There's going to be dead bodies everywhere, man. Okay? People are going to be, ultimately killing each other for food, right? For supplies, for water. Okay? For maybe even a car so that them and their family can take it, or that a man himself can take it. Okay? It's gonna be a real cold world out here, man. Scripture say, because of iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And that's taking place too, even right now. Right, much more in the days of Jacob's trouble, but even right now, man, I just saw a video yesterday, man, where a woman took her two kids, right, and of her and her husband, and she put them in the oven and baked them, man. The husband comes home to them and it's still in the oven. All right, you see that love of many is waxing cold. Okay, so in the times to come, that's how it's really going to be when people, lose everything, they lose it. And people lose their house and their car and their job, and don't have, any hope, for anything better to come. People are gonna turn into animals, man. Okay. But let me go back to Ezekiel chapter 7. Let me go down, right? And verse 25 in the NLT on the right-hand side, it says, terror and trembling will overcome my people. That's what's coming. Terror and trembling is going to overcome our 2/3 of our people. It says they will look for peace, but not find it. Calamity will follow calamity. Rumor will follow rumor. They will look in vain for a vision from the prophets. They will receive no teaching from the priests and no counsel from the leaders. You see that? Calamity is going to follow calamity. Disaster after disaster. A steady stream of bad news is going to continue to pour in. I mean, even as it is now. With this whole situation that Donald Trump, just strike 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities. A lot of people are upset and now afraid because they know that that's a declaration of war. Right? We've already been in World War III technically, but things are starting to pick up. Okay, the temperature is rising, man. So now that, things start to happen more and more, eventually it's going to come to a point where people are going to start looking for us. But what does it say? They will look in vain for a vision from the prophets, because now the Lord's going to hide his men, right? And they're going to be trying to receive a teaching, but they ain't going to get none. They're getting it now, okay? They're getting it now. And just to jump back, because not only did Iran, Speaker Iran's parliament, talk about closing the Strait of Hurmoz, which again is going to have, prices surge. Okay, so, supply chain, being affected to where things are going to be delayed and may not be coming in at all. All right, so major things are happening, man. But while everybody's worried about this whole NBA finals, I kind of tripped out on that, man. I ain't going to lie. Like, sometimes, we just be on day to day trying to, stay in the spirit, trying to, stay on top of things in our life. You kind of be out of the loop with certain things. And I like basketball, but I ain't gonna lie, it's the first time in the years that I didn't watch, the finals. I didn't even know they had the finals, right? And I guess OKC took it, hey, I guess, it is what it is. But just the major point is, I'm like, man, it's crazy how I completely forgot. And if you are watching it and did kept up, there's nothing wrong with it. But I'm just making a point, like, there's so much going on in the spirit. I was just kind of shocked that the finals was happening at the same time. It was nowhere in my mind, But hey, at the end of the day, it's irrelevant. So, it is what it is. But this is CNBC.com. Right, this is 3 hours ago. All right, today is the 23rd, so this is fresh off the press. It says Iran attacks U.S. military base in Qatar with missiles. So now, not only did Iran, consider closing the Strait of Hormuz, or will close it, but now they struck, a U.S. military base in Qatar. Okay, things are heating up. Iran launched what is called a powerful and destructive missile strike on the U.S. Al Udeid military base in Qatar. The attack came in retaliation for U.S. B-2 bombers and cruise missiles striking nuclear development facilities in Iran on Saturday. And we already know that, Russia, Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, he's ultimately in cahoots with Iran. So now, Donald Trump is not only making war with one, but 2, 3, 4. Because now, it's, come on, bro. Iran, China, Russia, they're all in cahoots. They're all allies, man. So by Donald Trump, ultimately issuing in this war, and again, why I quoted Ezekiel 38, because it talks about, Russia, how, they are a guard unto the nations, right? So, hey, Vladimir Putin already warned Trump to stay away from Iran. But what does Trump do? He runs in there, all right, and he causes war. And that's what Esau does, man. Okay? That's what Esau does. Scripture say that his words are smoother than butter, but war is in his heart. That's the Psalms, the 55th chapter. All right, war is in the mind of these devils, man. That's what they're bringing. Okay, all by design and all orchestrated by the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. There's only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. It says, President Donald Trump, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Dane Kane, and other officials were in the White House's Situation Room monitoring developments. Iran on Monday launched what its armed forces called a powerful and destructive missile strike on the United States Al Udeid military base in Qatar. Explosions were heard in the skies over Doha, the capital of Qatar. The Al Udeid air base, whose 10,000 or so service members make it the largest military installation in the Middle East, is located near Doha. Man, that's crazy, man. Okay, so this ain't no joke. Qatar's defense ministry said its air defense had successfully intercepted the missile attack on Al Udeid, and that there were no reported deaths or injuries. NBC reported that the U.S. forces were braced for an imminent attack from Iran on sites in Iraq and Bahrain. A semi-official Iranian outlet reported that Iran had also launched a strike on an American base in Iraq. The attack came in retaliation for U.S. B-2 bombers and cruise missiles striking nuclear development facilities in Iran on Saturday. The price of crude oil fell in trading Monday after news of the attack broke. Qatar closed its airspace shortly before the attack was reported. Okay. So, hey, again, this is breaking news, man. All right, the third woe cometh quickly. Right, Yahweh Shemel Shai is setting up, the greatest fall of an empire, right before our very eyes, and it's happening from the inside out. Okay, you see, it's happening from the inside out, and the fact that we're seeing these increasing wars shows that America's end is here. Okay, America's end is here, and you even had I think I'm gonna clip it in the beginning of this lesson too. You even have Canada talking about they're not gonna support America with military assistance, man. You see, in Canada is one of the, I believe is one of the members of NATO. Okay, let me just fact check that. Right, and also Canada is one of the U.S. largest trading partners. Right, it says Canada, a founding member of NATO, was one of the first countries to propose the idea of a transatlantic defense alliance. Okay, so there you go, man. That's also biblical prophecy. Okay, let me get that real quick. Can't forget about that, because a lot of people will not look at these things from a biblical perspective and they'll think that it's just something light happening in the earth. All right, it is what it is. No, this is matter of fact, I'm gonna get it in the NLT. This is Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 7 in the NLT on the right hand side. It says all your allies will turn against you, and it talks about that in Revelation, man, how the beast, right, the NATO and EU will ultimately hate the whore, which is America. Okay, so America's allies are going to eventually turn on her, all right, with the rest of its enemies as well. All your allies will turn against you. They will help to chase you from your land. They will promise you peace while plotting to deceive you, while plotting to deceive and destroy you. Your trusted friends will set traps for you, and you won't even know about it. See, the Lord is setting Esau up. The Lord has Esau in a trick bag, man. All right, Donald Trump over here boasting about how strong the military is, and nobody could have did what they did, and the way that they did it, and being more, more bold, saying that if they want to retaliate, then they won't hesitate to strike, with skill, precision. Like, come on, man. Time of you devils ruling is almost up, man. So, enjoy while you can, Esau, because your time is coming where the power is going to be stripped from you and given unto us, Lord willing, man, given unto the Israelites, the people of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Okay, but I just want to get, these articles. I didn't want to veer off from the topic, okay, because, a lot of things are happening, okay? A lot of things are happening. So, Lord willing, this lesson was informative. Lord willing, you were edified. As always, before I end off, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and infinite glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachach. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, our teachers. Till next time, Lord's will, I say shalom, stay strong, and keep the faith. Shalom.